You ever get that feeling when something looks normal on the outside, but underneath it's rotting? That was my neighborhood. The lawns were neat, the houses were identical, and everyone waved politely. But behind the scenes, money was disappearing, fees were skyrocketing, and HOA Karen kept showing up with new excuses, new fines, and new threats. I didn't know it then, but my neighborhood was sitting on top of a financial bomb. And I was about to uncover the biggest HOA scandal our county had ever seen. It started with one number, one line on a statement that didn't make sense. A deferred infrastructure fee. $1,200 for what? Nobody knew. And when I started asking questions, people warned me, don't poke the bear, Karen will make your life hell. But I kept digging, and what I found, a secret bank account, fake invoices, thousands missing, and the HOA. Almost completely bankrupt. Karen tried to silence me. She tried to find me, threaten me, even call the police on me. But once I uncovered the truth, she didn't realize something. I had already made copies. I had already contacted the county. And I had already prepared the bombshell that would expose everything. Before we start this insane story, tell me in the comments, have you ever dealt with a shady HOA or a corrupt manager? What happened? I read every single one. And if you love dramatic real-life battles like this, hit that subscribe button because you won't believe how this ends. The morning it all started, I was standing on my porch with a cup of coffee, enjoying the one peaceful thing about living in an HOA, the quiet. Birds, a soft breeze, sunlight filtering over identical rooftops. And then, because my life can never be calm, Karen turned the corner. She marched down the street like she owned the entire subdivision, clutching her faded pink clipboard like it was a weapon. Her heels clicked with military precision. She stopped at my mailbox and slapped an envelope on it without even looking my way. I sighed. Here we go again. I walked over, pulled off the envelope, and opened it right there in the driveway. Inside was a notice. Deferred infrastructure fee, immediate payment required, $1,200. I muttered, what the hell is a deferred infrastructure fee? As if summoned by my confusion, Karen spun around. Oh, you got it. Wonderful. That's due by Friday. What infrastructure? I asked. She blinked too fast. Community upgrades. What upgrades? She smiled, the kind of smile you give a child who won't stop asking questions. You don't need to worry about that. Just pay it. Everyone is. I knew that was a lie. My neighbor, Tom, who knew everything, would have already complained to me if there was some new fee. Karen, where exactly is this money going? I asked. Her posture stiffened. Are you questioning the board's decisions? Yes, I am. For a second, her eye twitched. Then she said, failure to pay will result in escalating fines. I suggest you comply. She pivoted and walked away. My blood burned. I wasn't paying a dime until I understood what I was paying for. I marched over to my neighbor Tom's house. He was already outside watering his grass. Did you get the fee? I asked. He frowned. What fee? I handed him the notice. His eyebrows shot up. What the? I didn't get this. And that's when something clicked. Karen always tested new nonsense fines on me first. She hated that I didn't bend to her rules, so she'd try to push boundaries. Grass a little too long? Fine. Car parked facing the wrong direction? Fine. Garbage can 2 inches from the curb? Fine. But this was new. Tom, something's off. Why target only me? He shrugged. You know she hates you. Yeah, but this felt deeper. Later that evening, I attended the HOA meeting uninvited, but the law allowed residents to observe. Karen hated that. The moment I walked into the clubhouse, Karen stopped mid-sentence. Oh, look, she said loudly, our neighborhood troublemaker decided to join us. People chuckled awkwardly. I walked straight to the sign-in sheet, not even looking at her. Then I sat. And what I witnessed made my stomach twist. Karen and the board were reviewing financial statements, but something looked wrong. They had projected expenses, projected income, estimated maintenance, all vague, no specific breakdown, no details. And then I saw it in small print, operating balance, $3,742. Our HOA managed 87 homes. How the hell did they only have $3,700 left? The previous year, the reserve fund alone had over $200,000. I knew that because I read the annual report like a normal adult who doesn't trust people who smile too much. Where did the money go? When Karen opened the floor for resident concerns, I raised my hand immediately. She sighed dramatically. Yes, you. Why does the HOA only have $3,700 left? I asked. The room went silent. Karen froze. The board members shifted uncomfortably. That information is confidential, she snapped. No, it's not, I replied. Financial disclosures are mandatory. Her jaw clenched. We're handling matters internally. You're not on the board. I don't need to be on the board to know where my money is going. People murmured. Karen slammed her clipboard on the table. Meeting adjourned. Everyone flinched. That's not how this works, I said. She stormed toward me. If you keep disrupting meetings, I'll have you removed. For asking where thousands of dollars disappeared? She leaned close, whispering, walk away. This isn't your business. I stared back. It is if you're stealing from us. Her face went purple with rage. She grabbed her phone, marched toward the door, and said, "Fine, if you want to play detective, let's see how you like dealing with the police." She called the cops on me for attending a public HOA meeting. Unbelievable. When the officers arrived, Karen ran to them like a Karen in her natural habitat. "Officer, he's harassing the board." One officer turned to me. "Sir, what's going on?" "I asked where our money went," I said calmly. The officer blinked. "That's not a crime." Karen's smile twitched, and that's the moment I realized she was hiding something big, something worth panicking over, something worth calling the police for, something she never expected me to uncover. The officer quietly leaned in and told me, "Sir, if you believe money is missing, you should request the full financial ledger. They're legally required to provide it." Karen overheard. She turned pale. I smiled because the hunt had officially begun. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, all I saw was Karen's face, the panic when the officer mentioned the financial ledger, the way her smile cracked for just a second. That reaction wasn't normal. You don't freak out unless you're hiding something. So the next morning, I printed a formal request letter citing state HOA transparency laws. It basically said, "Give me the complete financial ledger for the past 5 years or else." I walked straight to the HOA office trailer. The door was locked, of course. But as I turned to leave, the blinds shifted. Someone was inside. I knocked. "Karen, I know you're in there." Silence. I knocked again. "You can't ignore a legal request." From behind the blinds, a shadow moved. Then Karen's voice, muffled but annoyed, said, "We're closed. It's 10 a.m., administrative day. No visitors." "Then open the door." "I said we're closed." Her voice cracked in a way that told me I was hitting nerves she didn't want touched. Neighbor Marcy walked her dog past us and whispered, "Careful, Karen's been in a mood since last night." I whispered back, "Good." I taped my request letter directly to the office door, not subtle, extremely satisfying. Karen yanked the blinds open. She glared at me like I'd personally set her SUV on fire. "You can't just—" "It's legal. You have 10 days to comply." She snarled, actually snarled. "You're destroying this community," she said. "No," I replied. "You're just afraid I'll find out what you're doing to it." She slammed the blinds shut. But here's the thing Karen didn't know. I didn't need her to open that door, not yet. I already had a plan. That evening, I walked around the neighborhood, casually checking in with residents, and that's when patterns started forming. "Did you get the new fee?" I asked Tom. "Nope, just you." "How about you, Lisa?" "Nope." "Mark?" "No." It was official. Karen was targeting me alone with the $1,200 deferred infrastructure fee. That wasn't incompetence, that was retaliation. But the bigger issue, when I asked neighbors about HOA funds, I started hearing stranger things. Lisa whispered, "They said our landscaping budget ran out, but we haven't had new plants in 2 years." Tom added, "They raised our monthly dues twice already and somehow they still need more money." Old Mr. Jenkins said his roof damage claim, paid through HOA reserves, was denied because funds were being reallocated. Everyone's stories pointed in the same direction. The money was gone, but nobody knew where. That night, I sat at my desk with a notebook and started piecing things together like a crime board. Fees increased, maintenance cut, repairs ignored, landscaping reduced, contractors delayed. Yet Karen and the board members, new clothes, a new patio set behind Karen's house, a suspicious set of appliances delivered to the treasurer's house. Coincidence? Absolutely not, but I needed proof, so I visited the county auditor's office the next day. The woman behind the counter looked at me like she'd seen dozens of HOA victims before. "How can I help?" she asked. "I need to check something. Do HOAs have to file annual income and expense reports with the county?" "Not always. But if they spend reserve funds over a certain threshold, they must report major disbursements." Perfect. I gave her our HOA's name. A minute later, she frowned. "That's odd." "What?" "They filed improper paperwork. The signatures don't match last year's." My heart slammed against my chest. "What do you mean improper?" "They submitted reports, but the figures look inconsistent, and they didn't list where the reserves were allocated." She lowered her voice. "Usually indicates financial mismanagement, or worse." I whispered, "Fraud?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. She handed me a printed copy. "This is public information. You're allowed to have it." I walked out gripping that paper like it was a golden ticket. It showed everything. Reserve Fund 2024, $212,000. Reserve Fund 2025, $38,000, a drop of $174,000 in a single year. And the expenses listed? Vague, unexplained, hidden behind generic categories like administrative adjustments, 50,000 community operations, 40,000 MISC, vendor services, $32,000 that wasn't sloppy accounting. That was intentional obfuscation. Someone was draining the HOA, and Karen was the one holding the pen. On the drive home, adrenaline hit me so hard I had to grip the steering wheel like it was trying to escape my hands. This wasn't about a $1,200 fee anymore. This was grand-scale corruption. When I got back home, Karen was waiting at the end of my driveway, not a coincidence. She strode toward my truck as I parked. "You've been snooping," she snapped. I stepped out slowly. "I requested public records. You're making this harder than it needs to be." "Where's the money, Karen?" She froze. Her eyes widened in genuine panic, then narrowed into hatred. "You need to stop before you hurt this community." "You mean before I expose what you've done?" She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You think you can go against the HOA? You think the police will protect you? You think anyone will believe you when the board says you're lying?" My voice stayed calm. "I don't need anyone to believe me, Karen." I held up the county report. "The numbers speak for themselves." Her jaw slowly dropped. For the first time, she looked scared, truly scared. "You have no idea what you're messing with," she whispered. I stared her down. "Then enlighten me." She swallowed hard, looked around nervously, then hissed, "You're going to regret this." She turned and walked away fast, but before reaching her house, she snapped pictures of my truck, my house, my yard, retaliation, witness intimidation, documenting violations. Classic Karen tactics, but she was too late. Because that night I scanned every financial document I had, saved every file, made multiple backups, sent a copy to my brother out of state, and prepared my next step, a formal complaint to the state attorney general. But before I could file it, a letter appeared on my porch the next morning. "Urgent HOA notice, lien intent." Karen had escalated. She was trying to put a lien on my home over a fake $1,200 fee. This wasn't just a fight anymore. It was war. The lien notice sat in my hands like a live grenade. A lien over a fake fee, over a question she didn't want me to ask, over the truth she didn't want exposed. I stormed into my house and slammed the letter on the table. My heart pounded. Lien notices were serious. They could ruin credit, freeze mortgages, even block property sales. Karen knew exactly what she was doing. This wasn't just intimidation, it was leverage, weaponized paperwork. I took a deep breath, grabbed my phone, and dialed the police non-emergency line. "Hi, I need to report attempted extortion by my HOA." The dispatcher hesitated. "Sir, did you say extortion?" "Yes, they're issuing fraudulent fees and threatening liens when I ask questions about missing funds." "Okay, officers will stop by shortly." Good, because this mess needed an official record. The patrol car pulled up 30 minutes later. Two officers stepped out, Officer Grant, who had been at the HOA meeting, and a younger officer who looked like he hadn't yet realized how ridiculous HOAs could be. Grant approached with a tired smile. "We meet again." I held up the notice. "She's escalating." He read it, eyebrows lifting. "A lien for a non-existent fee, and she's the one refusing financial transparency?" "Exactly." He nodded. "We can't stop the HOA from filing paperwork, but we can document all harassment. If they file fraudulent liens, the county can investigate." I lowered my voice. "Officer, I think there's bigger corruption going on." He crossed his arms. "How big?" I handed him the county financial report. When he saw the $174,000 disappearance, his expression changed completely. "Whoa, this is serious." "Yeah, and she's retaliating because I found out." Grant exhaled sharply. "Okay, here's what you do. Keep everything, every letter, every text, every notice. We'll file an incident report today." Before I could thank him, the younger officer nudged him. Grant, we have company." We turned. Karen was marching down the sidewalk like a villain, making a dramatic entrance, clipboard in hand, lips pressed so tight her face twitched. She pointed at me. "Officers, he is harassing the board." Grant pinched the bridge of his nose. "Ma'am, again? This man is disrupting community harmony, slandering our leadership, and refusing to comply with mandatory fees." I laughed. "Mandatory? For who? Just me?" She ignored me. "I want him removed. I'm filing a no-contact order." I raised an eyebrow. "On what grounds? Asking where the money went?" Karen shoved her face toward Officer Grant. "He's causing chaos and putting the community at risk." Grant's tone shifted, official, controlled. "Ma'am, issuing fraudulent liens and refusing financial transparency is actually illegal." Karen's fake composure cracked. "That fee is legitimate," she insisted. "Show me the paperwork," I challenged. Her eyes darted away. Grant asked, "Ma'am, do you have the invoice, vendor statements, or documentation for this fee?" Karen clutched her clipboard like a shield. "Those documents are confidential." Grant stepped forward. "They're not. You are legally required to disclose HOA financial activity to residents upon request." He was done playing around. Her voice trembled. "You don't understand. This community, we had expenses." "What expenses?" Grant asked sharply. Karen backed up. "If I give you the documents, you won't understand them." "Try me." She swallowed hard. "I need to consult legal counsel." Grant replied coldly, "Great, because you're going to need one." Karen's face turned a shade of volcanic red. She turned sharply and stormed away, muttering something about power-tripping officers and uneducated homeowners. The younger officer watched her go. "Is she always like this?" I nodded. "Worse." Grant handed me his card. If she actually files a lien, contact the county fraud investigator immediately and call me, personally. I felt a spark of hope. Finally, someone who understood what was happening, but the fight was only beginning. That night, I heard the sound of footsteps outside my house. I peeked through the curtains. Karen taking pictures again. My yard, my gutters, my driveway, my porch light. Anything she could twist into a violation. I stepped outside. You mind? She flinched but didn't stop. Violations are being documented for community safety. For what? Existing, she snapped another photo. You brought this on yourself. By asking where $174,000 went, she froze, her face lost all color. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I do, she stormed toward me. You think you're some kind of hero. You think you're going to topple the HOA? If the HOA is corrupt, I said calmly, then absolutely. She jabbed a finger at my chest. You're going to destroy everything, and when the truth comes out, you'll wish you never opened your mouth. I held her gaze. Karen, the truth is already out. Her breathing became erratic. Her hands shook. Stop digging, she whispered. Please. That wasn't anger, that was fear. That told me everything. She wasn't doing this alone, someone else was involved, and I was getting too close. As she walked away, she said something I wasn't meant to hear. He's going to ruin us, not me, not the board, us. There were more people tangled in this web, more than just Karen, and I'd just forced their hand. Because at 7:30 the next morning, a black SUV with tinted windows pulled in front of my house. A man I'd never seen stepped out. A board member I didn't know existed. He knocked once, heavy, deliberate. Open the door, he called. We need to talk. This wasn't HOA anymore. This was something darker, something dangerous. And if I opened that door, everything would change. I opened the door slowly, just enough to see the man standing on my porch. He was tall, wearing a dark suit that didn't match the suburban setting and sunglasses even though it was cloudy. He carried no clipboard, no papers. Just a presence that screamed authority or the illusion of it. Can I help you? I asked. He smiled without warmth. I'm Daniel, HOA Vice President. Funny, I'd never seen him at a single meeting. He stepped forward slightly. We need to clear up a misunderstanding. Which part? I asked. The missing $174,000, the fraudulent lien, the intimidation. His jaw tightened. There are reasons for everything that's happening. Great, I'd love to hear them. Daniel removed his sunglasses slowly. Inside, not here. No thanks, we can talk right here. For the first time, his polite facade cracked. You're making this more complicated than it needs to be. I'm not stepping inside a closed room with a guy whose name's never been on a ballot. Daniel gave a low chuckle. Smart man, but the chuckle didn't reach his eyes. He was sizing me up. He lowered his voice. Let me make this simple. If you drop the financial request, if you forget what you think you saw, the lien will disappear. The fees will vanish. Life will go back to normal. I stared at him. You're bribing me with my own peace, he shrugged. Consider it a compromise. No, his smile vanished. Maybe you're not understanding the gravity of the situation. The board has obligations. And empty accounts, I replied, his eyes sharpened. You've dug enough. The board's spending was authorized. Show me the authorization then. That information is privileged. Then it's illegal, I shot back. Daniel exhaled like a man who'd run out of patience. Let me be blunt, you're putting yourself at risk. I crossed my arms. Are you threatening me? He lifted both hands. I'm warning you, there's a difference. There was, before he could continue, a voice called from across the street. Hey, leave him alone. It was Tom, phone in hand, recording. Daniel stiffened instantly. Sir, he warned, recording private discussions is in public, Tom yelled. Try me. Daniel swallowed whatever threat he was about to make. He stepped off the porch and walked toward the SUV, but before getting in, he turned back. This is your final warning. Drop it. He sped away. Tom hurried over. Dude, who the hell was that? The so-called vice president. Tom frowned. We don't have a vice president. My blood went cold. What? There's Karen, the treasurer. And that guy who never speaks, that's it. Then who did I just talk to? Tom shook his head. That guy wasn't elected to anything. The realization hit me like a brick. They created fake titles, fake positions, fake authority to cover real crimes. I needed backup. I went back inside and dialed the county fraud division. A woman answered. County Financial Crimes Unit, how may I assist? I took a deep breath. I need to report what appears to be massive HOA fund mismanagement, retaliation, and possible criminal conspiracy. Your name? I told her. She typed quickly. We've actually received 2 anonymous complaints about your HOA already. My heart nearly stopped. What complaints? She read from her screen. Suspicious expenditures, unreported vendor contracts, missing financial records. And one claim about a board member hiring a relative's construction company for inflated invoices. I sat down hard. I wasn't the first. Others had seen it. Others had reported it, but nothing happened. I asked, why hasn't there been an investigation? She hesitated. We require documented evidence. Do you have any? I smiled grimly. Oh, I have plenty. I emailed everything, county reports, notices, photos, Karen's fraudulent lien threat, even a screenshot of the mysterious vice president walking away from my porch. She reviewed the files live on the phone. I heard her breath catch. Sir, this is substantial. Will you investigate? Yes, but we need one more thing. What? A copy of the HOA's official financial ledger. I cursed under my breath. They're refusing to hand it over. That's illegal, she said. If you can obtain a copy, even a partial one, we can launch a formal investigation and may involve law enforcement. Then she added, you didn't hear this from me, but if you attend the next board meeting, financial documents must legally be present on site. I froze. That meant the ledger would be physically in the room. I thanked her and hung up. The plan was forming itself. That night, I drafted a strategy with Tom and a few trusted neighbors. Not everyone could be involved, too risky. We needed eyes, phones, and witnesses. And in the middle of planning, Tom asked, but what if Karen refuses to show the documents? I smiled. Then she breaks the law in front of a room full of witnesses. Either way, we win. We set the plan. Attend the meeting as a group, demand financial transparency, record everything, document retaliation, secure a copy of the ledger, submit it to the fraud division. Watch the HOA collapse under its own corruption. The next HOA meeting was Friday. Karen thought she scared me. She thought the lien notice broke me. She thought Daniel's visit would silence me. But she had no idea I was done playing defense. Friday at 6 p.m., I would walk into that meeting and blow their operation apart. The HOA had been hiding their shady finances for years, and now I was going to expose everything. Friday came faster than I expected. All week, Karen avoided eye contact with every neighbor. She didn't walk her usual morning inspection route. She didn't harass anyone about trash bins or mailbox colors. She barely even left her house. Guilt changes people. Fear breaks them. By 5:45 p.m., the neighborhood clubhouse was buzzing. People stood outside whispering about missing money, fraud, Karen losing it, and the guy who's exposing everything. That last one, yeah, that was me. Tom clapped a hand on my shoulder. You ready? As ready as a man walking into a lion's den can be. We stepped inside together. The board sat at the long, folding table, Karen in the middle, Treasurer Eugene on her left, and the silent board member Greg on her right. But Karen looked different. Her hair was frizzy, her face pale, her hands shook when she organized her papers, and the chair beside her, the one Daniel claimed was the vice president's seat, was empty. I smirked. Where's your buddy? Karen flinched. We have no vice president. Funny, I said, loudly enough for the room to hear. A man claiming to be your VP was on my porch threatening me. People murmured. Some gasped. Karen snapped her clipboard open. We are starting. Order, please. Greg banged a gavel onto the table so weakly it sounded like a spoon hitting a pillow. Karen cleared her throat. Tonight's agenda includes community maintenance updates, new landscaping initiatives, and I stood. Before we begin, the community has a legal right to review the financial ledger. Everyone looked straight at her. Karen swallowed. We will not be reviewing financials today. The room erupted. Why not? Where's our money? What are you hiding? We pay dues, show us the books. Karen slammed her clipboard. Quiet. But the room didn't quiet. People were fed up. They were frightened. And they realized this wasn't just an HOA issue, it was a theft issue. I spoke again, raising my voice above the noise. According to state law, HOA financial ledgers must be on site and available during meetings. Where are they? Karen's eye twitched. They are unavailable. I stepped forward. Unavailable? Why? She looked cornered, sweating, breathing hard. Then she snapped. She pointed at me in a trembling rage. This is your doing. You've poisoned the community. You've turned everyone against the board. I replied. The missing $174,000 turned them against the board. Gasps filled the room. Karen grabbed her clipboard so tight her knuckles turned white. Stop lying. I pulled out the county report. This says otherwise. Everyone leaned in. Phones came out. Cameras clicked. A dozen neighbors moved closer to read the document over my shoulder. Treasurer Eugene suddenly stood up, terrified. Karen, you said you fixed the reports. Karen whipped toward him. Shut UP. But it was too late. Everyone heard it. I stepped closer. Karen, bring out the ledger. She shook her head violently. I can't. Why? Her voice cracked. Because you'll twist it. Because it's empty. I shot back. Because the money's gone. The room buzzed with anger. Tom shouted, enough. Show us the books or we call the cops right now. Karen exploded. Fine. She stormed to a cabinet behind the table. She yanked open a drawer and slapped down a thin binder. My stomach dropped. The ledger was supposed to be huge, hundreds of pages. This was maybe 10. Karen threw her arms up. They're happy. I walked forward slowly, opened the binder, and froze. Every page was identical. Same handwriting, same ink. Same 3 categories repeated over and over. Administrative adjustments, vendor services, operational costs, 10 pages of copy-pasted garbage. I held it up to the room. This isn't a ledger, this is a cover-up. The room burst into outrage. People shouted, where's our money? This is fraud. We want the real documents. Karen screamed. There are no other documents. Eugene looked like he wanted to disappear. Greg quietly slid his chair back, inching toward the exit. And me, I felt the heat rising. Karen, I said quietly, did you steal the money? She froze solid. The room went silent. Her lips trembled. And no, then where is it? Her voice dropped to a whisper so quiet it barely existed. I don't have it anymore, people gasped. I stepped forward. Karen, who does? Tears welled in her eyes, and then she cracked, completely. She collapsed into the chair, clutching her head, crying into her hands. I didn't mean for it to happen. I didn't know it would go this far. The board members stared at her in shock. Before she could say another word, the clubhouse door burst open. Police officers entered. The entire room froze. Ma'am, the lead officer said, we received multiple reports of suspected fraud and financial misconduct by the HOA. Karen's head shot up. No, 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 no. Karen Miller, the officer asked. She whimpered, yes. You're under investigation. You need to come with us. And right then, Karen did the most Karen thing possible. She tried to run. She bolted for the side exit. Neighbors screamed. Officers sprinted after her. They caught her beside the parking lot, cuffed her against her own SUV, and read her rights as she cried, begged, and shook uncontrollably. And standing in that stunned, silent crowd, I realized this was only the beginning, because Karen wasn't the mastermind. She was the pawn. Someone else took the money. And now they knew I was coming for them, too. Part 6. Approximately 1000 words, Karen's arrest sent a shockwave through the community. People stood in clusters whispering, some recording, others crying, others furious. It was chaos outside the clubhouse, but beneath all of it there was something else. Fear. Not fear of Karen. Fear of what else we didn't know. As the police car pulled away with her in the back seat, I approached Officer Grant. He looked exhausted and deeply troubled. And I said quietly, Karen didn't act alone. He nodded slowly. I think so too. Do you know who's next? He narrowed his eyes. Tell me. I lowered my voice. A man calling himself the vice president came to my house, but no one on the board knows him. Grant stiffened. Describe him. I described the suit, the sunglasses, the intimidating posture. Grant's expression darkened with each detail. That man, he said, fits the description of someone we've been trying to locate for months. My heart skipped. Who is he? A contractor suspected of running inflated invoice scams across multiple HOAs. He gets cozy with corrupt board members, fixes imaginary issues, charges insane amounts, and splits the money with whoever lets him in. I exhaled sharply. And Karen let him in. Grant nodded. She probably thought it was harmless, easy money, until it was. I clenched my jaw. So the missing $174,000 likely ended up in offshore accounts split between this guy and whoever else was involved. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Do you think Karen's the only board member involved? Grant looked me dead in the eyes. No, he said, not even close. The days following Karen's arrest changed everything. HOA operations were suspended, the bank froze the association account, the county launched a full financial audit, neighbors demanded an emergency election, and I became the de facto investigator everyone trusted, but the atmosphere was tense. Heavy. Something about the way Karen broke down bothered me. She hadn't been angry. She'd been terrified, like she was more scared of someone else than of being arrested. I couldn't shake it. So I paid her a visit, not at her house, not in the neighborhood. At the county detention center. The visiting room was quiet except for the buzz of fluorescent lights. Karen sat across from me, wearing an orange jumpsuit, eyes red and swollen. When she saw me, her jaw tightened. Why are you here? Because you didn't do this alone, I said. And you know who did, she swallowed hard. It won't matter, he'll come after me, and you, and anyone who talks. Who is he? She looked around nervously, as if expecting him to materialize out of thin air. I can't, she whispered. You don't understand what he's capable of. Karen, I said, leaning forward, you're already in jail. What more can he do? She stared at me for a long moment, defeated, exhausted, broken. Then she whispered, he's already here. My blood ran cold. I turned. A man in a dark suit was walking through the far side of the detention center. Same height, same posture, same sunglasses. The vice president imposter. Karen's breath hitched. Don't look at him, don't look at him. I did anyway, because he was staring right at me. He smirked, and then he disappeared into a secure hallway. Karen grabbed my hands shakily. You're dead if you don't drop this. Karen, listen, she cried. He's not just a contractor. He launders money through HOAs. He blackmails board members. He threatens their families. I tried to stop him, but he said if I spoke, he'd ruin me. Is that why you framed me, with the fines, the lien? Tears rolled down her face. He told me to. He said you were getting too close. You were noticing things no one else noticed. My chest tightened. Karen wasn't innocent, but she wasn't the mastermind. She was scared, cornered, used. I asked softly, does he have a name? She whispered it. Richard Dalman, the contractor, the fraudster, the man who had come to my house pretending to be HOA vice president. I nodded. Thank you. She shook her head violently. Don't thank me, he'll find out. I stood. He already knows, I said quietly. He saw me today. Karen collapsed into her hands, sobbing. I walked out of the detention center knowing one thing: the HOA scandal wasn't the end. It was the beginning, because Richard thought he scared me. He thought he could shut me up. He thought he could silence an entire community with one smile. But what he didn't know, I had already contacted the County Fraud Division. I had already filed documents with the Attorney General. I had already gathered every neighbor willing to testify. And now, I had a name: Richard Dalman, the man behind the missing money, and I was coming for him next. The next morning began with a knock on my door, not polite, not neutral, a heavy, deliberate pounding that made the walls vibrate. I already knew who it was. I grabbed my phone, turned on the camera, and opened the door just enough to see him. Richard Dalman, black suit, sunglasses, hands behind his back like he owned the entire world. He smiled when he saw me. "You're a difficult man to intimidate." I didn't open the door more. "Most people knock normally," he chuckled. "Normal methods don't seem to work on you. Maybe because I'm not stealing from my neighbors." His smile sharpened. "I didn't steal from anyone. You took $174,000. "No," he said softly. "Karen did." I stared at him. He was lying and didn't even care enough to hide it. He stepped closer. "You're a smart man, and I respect that, but you need to stop digging." "I'm not stopping," he shrugged lightly. "Then you should know something." He removed his sunglasses. His eyes were cold. "There won't be anyone left to protect you." I narrowed my eyes. "Is that a threat?" "No," he said. "It's a prediction." He slipped something through the crack of my door, an envelope. Then he stepped back, calm as a snake, and walked down my driveway without another word. I shut the door and opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a single photo, my house, taken from across the street, at night. A red X was drawn over the front window. Below it, 2 words were written in ink: "Last chance." My stomach twisted. This wasn't some HOA drama anymore. This was criminal, dangerous, and escalating way too fast. I immediately dialed Officer Grant. He answered on the first ring. "What happened?" "He came to my house." "Dalman?" "Yes." "Did he threaten you?" "Not directly, but he left a message." "What kind of message?" I sent him a picture of the photo. The moment Grant saw it, he cursed. "I'm coming over." In less than 10 minutes, his patrol car pulled into my driveway. Grant stepped out, tense and furious. "This crosses the line into felony intimidation." "What do?" "We escalate. You're filing a criminal complaint today, and we're forwarding everything to the AG's office." As he photographed the evidence, he asked, "Did he mention Karen?" "Yes, he's blaming everything on her." Grant muttered. "Classic. He uses people, then abandons them." "And Karen knew?" "She was terrified," Grant said. "Dalman is known for intimidating, bribing, and blackmailing HOA board members." "We've seen cases like this before." I swallowed. "How many?" "Too many." He finished filing the preliminary report, then looked at me seriously. "You need to stay vigilant. Don't open your door unless it's me or a uniformed officer." "Why, you think he'll come back?" Grant didn't answer. His silence said everything. That night the neighborhood was unusually quiet, too quiet. No kids riding bikes, no people chatting on porches, no dogs barking. Everyone knew something was happening, but no one wanted to say it out loud. Around 11 p.m., I heard something outside, a car engine. Then tires crunching gravel. I peeked through the blinds. A dark SUV parked across the street, not moving, just sitting there, headlights off, watching. My pulse raced. I grabbed my phone again and hit record. Hours passed. The SUV didn't move an inch. By 2 a.m., my eyes were heavy, but I refused to sleep. At 2:40, the SUV finally pulled away slowly. No rush, no panic. "Just gone." The next morning, I told Tom. "That's him," Tom whispered. "It has to be him." We met at my dining table to plan our next move. Tom leaned in. "The community is with you. Everyone wants Richard gone. People are scared, but they're angry too." "We need evidence," I said. "Concrete, solid." Tom nodded. "Then we go after the contracts." I raised an eyebrow. "What contracts?" He smirked. "The ones Karen signed for vendor services. The ones for repairs that never happened." Of course, fake repairs, fake invoices, stolen money, all roads led back to Richard. Tom added, "I know someone at the county clerk's office. She can get us copies." "Let's go." We drove to the county building and filled out record requests. The clerk, a woman named Riley, pulled us aside. "I heard about your HOA," she whispered. "It's all over the office." "Good," I said. "We need every contract signed by Karen or the board." She typed quickly. "You do realize these documents are public, right? Anyone can request them." "Perfect." Within minutes, she printed a stack nearly 2 inches thick. "Good luck," she said. "You're going to need it." We took the documents to a nearby cafe, spread them across the table, and began sorting, and what we found was devastating. Invoices for roof repairs that never happened, landscaping work no one ever saw, concrete replacements that don't exist, electrical upgrades to streetlights that never changed. Every invoice was from one of 3 companies. And every company was owned by Richard Dalman. "Got him," Tom breathed. We're not done, I said. At the bottom of the stack was a contract worth $97,000 for drainage improvements. Signed by Karen? No, worse, Greg, the silent board member. Tom whispered, he's in on it. The puzzle clicked into place. Karen wasn't the only pawn. Greg was laundering money, Richard was collecting it, and the community was losing everything. I felt something shift inside me, resolve, determination. This ends now, I whispered, and just as I said it, my phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. You should have taken the deal, followed by a photo of me, inside the cafe, taken through the window. Someone was watching us, right now. Moment I saw that photo, my breath caught. Tom leaned over my shoulder, eyes widening. Bro, he's here right now. We scanned the parking lot but couldn't see anyone in plain sight. That made it worse. Whoever took that photo was close enough to watch us but smart enough not to be seen. A cold shiver crawled down my spine. We need to leave, I said. Tom agreed immediately. We packed up the documents, shoved them into my backpack, and hurried to the car. Before pulling out, I scanned the mirrors again. Empty, silent, but I knew better. Somebody was still watching. When we got back to my house, Officer Grant was already parked outside, leaning against his cruiser like he'd been waiting. His expression was dark. You need to see something. We followed him inside. On my porch, tucked under the welcome mat, was a small metal object. Grant held it up carefully. A tracker, a GPS tracker. My stomach flipped. He tagged my house? Grant nodded grimly. Not just your house. Pulled out 2 more identical trackers. One was under your truck. Tom stepped back. What about the third? Grant hesitated. The third was on the power box behind the clubhouse. A chill hit me like a bucket of ice water. Richard wasn't just monitoring me. He was monitoring the entire HOA. Grant locked eyes with me. This is organized crime, not random fraud. If we don't take him down carefully, someone's going to get hurt. I tightened my hands into fists. So what's the plan? Grant sat us down. We need hard evidence of criminal conspiracy. The contracts help, but we need more. Phone records, transaction histories, communication between Greg, Karen, and Richard, proof of intent, proof of coercion, Tom asked. How do we get that? Grant looked at us seriously. We go through Greg. My eyebrows shot up. The silent board member. He never talked because he was guilty, Grant said. Guilty people follow orders. They get sloppy. And if we pressure him right, he'll crack faster than Karen. Tom smirked. How do we pressure him? Grant gave us a slow, dangerous smile. We knock on his door. That evening, just before sunset, we drove to Greg's house. It was a beige 2-story with a dying lawn and boxes stacked on the porch like someone preparing to leave suddenly. Grant approached first. Greg opened the door halfway but froze when he saw the officer. His face turned ghost white. Mr. Henderson, Grant said, we need to talk about your signature. Greg stuttered. I didn't sign anything. I stepped forward. Then explain the $97,000 drainage contract with your name on it. His knees buckled. He tried to close the door, but Grant blocked it with his foot. Greg whispered, please, please don't make me say anything. I have a family. Tom replied, then tell the truth. Greg's eyes darted wildly. Sweat formed on his forehead. His hands shook. He whispered, he said he'd come after us if we didn't cooperate. I asked, Richard? Greg nodded violently. He forced Karen and me to sign everything. He threatened us. He said he owned the HOA now. He said if we didn't help him, he'd make us disappear. Grant's jaw tightened. Did you ever see where the money went? Greg nodded again. He makes us withdraw in small increments. He picks it up, in person. How much? Greg swallowed hard. All of it. Tom whispered, $174,000. Greg's voice cracked. It's gone, all gone. I asked, why didn't you report him? He snapped, would you report a man who shows up at night, who knows where your kids go to school, who threatens to burn your house down? Silence filled the porch. Then Greg whispered something we weren't expecting. He's planning to run tonight. He emptied another account this morning. Grant jolted. Where is he going? Greg's eyes darted. He keeps a storage unit on Old Mill Road. He uses it as his base, cash, records, everything. Grant immediately stepped back. Thank you, Greg. Stay inside. Lock your doors. Greg nodded desperately and slammed the door shut. Grant turned to us. We end this tonight. We drove toward Old Mill Road. The sun was almost down. Shadows stretched across the streets. Grant radioed backup. This is Officer Grant requesting immediate support. Possible suspect fleeing with evidence. Static crackled. Tom clenched his fists. You think he's there now? I nodded. If Greg's right, he's packing cash and records. Grant's car led the way. My truck followed behind. As we turned onto the long road behind the industrial park, my phone buzzed a text from the unknown number. I told you to stop. Then another photo, my truck, taken from behind. Right now, Tom turned pale. He's behind us. I whipped my head around, headlights fast, gaining speed. Grant shouted from his cruiser, get ready. Richard wasn't running anymore. He was coming straight for me. Richard's SUV roared closer, headlights blazing in the mirror, engine snarling like a predator ready to strike. My heart hammered so hard I felt it in my throat. HES ramming US, Tom yelled. I slammed the gas pedal. My truck lurched forward, tires screeching, gravel spitting. Grant's cruiser ahead of us swerved, lights flashing, siren blasting through the night. The industrial park loomed ahead, dark warehouses, chain-link fences, empty loading docks. Exactly the kind of place a criminal would disappear into. Richard accelerated again. Bam, his SUV clipped the back corner of my truck, sending us fishtailing. Tom grabbed the dashboard. Keep it straight. I yanked the wheel, fighting the skid. The truck corrected, but barely. Grant shouted through his cruiser's loudspeaker, "Pull over the vehicle, now!" Richard didn't slow. He sped up. He was coming in for a full hit, my blood iced. He's not trying to scare us anymore. Tom swallowed. He's trying to take us out. Ahead, Grant swerved onto a side road leading behind the warehouses. I followed, engines screaming, tires smoking on the pavement. Richard followed too, no hesitation, no fear, no brakes, just pure predatory determination. I shouted over the engine, "Call backup again." Tom dialed 911, voice shaking. "We need units now." HES trying to kill US? The dispatcher's voice was tense. "Units are en route." Grant's cruiser skidded to a stop near a row of storage units. He jumped out, hand on his weapon. "This is where Greg said he keeps the records," Grant shouted. I parked fast, too fast. The truck jerked sideways, but I didn't care. We ran behind Grant just as Richard's SUV screeched to a stop at the far end of the alley. The headlights shut off. The night fell silent, too silent. Tom whispered, "Where is he?" A chill crawled down my spine. "He's hunting us," I said. Grant drew his weapon fully. "Stay close, do not move alone." We moved slowly, backs against the wall, stepping between storage units. A metal clang echoed in the dark. Grant turned sharply. "DALMAN, police, show your hands." Nothing, then footsteps, fast, running. "HES behind Unit 43, Tom yelled. Grant sprinted toward it, shouting warnings. I followed, adrenaline surging like fire in my veins. When we turned the corner, there he was, Richard, hands full of duffel bags, stuffed with cash, stacks of documents spilling out. He froze when he saw us. Grant aimed his weapon. "Drop the BAGS, Richard smirked. "No." Then he ran. We chased him down the row of storage units. My lungs burned, legs pumping, breath ragged. Richard wasn't fast. He was desperate. As he reached the end of the alley, police sirens exploded behind us. Multiple units arrived, blocking the exits. Blue and red lights flooded the darkness. "DALMAN, stop!" Grant yelled. Richard didn't stop. He grabbed a loose pipe from beside a dumpster and swung it wildly. Grant dodged. Tom ducked. I stepped forward. Richard's pipe slammed across my shoulder. Pain shot down my arm, blinding white. I staggered. But adrenaline is a strange thing. I grabbed his wrist and twisted hard. The pipe clattered to the pavement. Richard snarled and lunged at me, trying to tackle me. I blocked him, but he grabbed my jacket and slammed me into the wall. "You should have stayed out of this," he screamed. I gritted my teeth. "You shouldn't have stolen from him. Why, neighbors?" Grant tackled him from behind, pinning him to the ground. Officers rushed in, shouting commands. Richard fought. He kicked. He thrashed, but he was outnumbered. Handcuffs clicked shut. Richard roared, "You're all dead. You hear me? Dead." Officers dragged him away, screaming, struggling, defeated. Grant looked at me, breathing hard. "You all right?" I nodded slowly. "Never better." Tom clapped my back. "Bro, you're insane, but in a good way." I laughed shakily. "We did it." But Grant shook his head. "Not yet. We need the evidence." We walked to the scattered duffel bags. Inside were bank statements, fake invoices, cash withdrawals, Karen's coerced signatures, Greg's coerced signatures, offshore transfer receipts, a full ledger. The real one, it was all there, everything we needed. Grant exhaled. "This is enough to bury him." Tom whispered, "It's over." I looked at the pile of evidence. "No," I said, "now it's just beginning." The courtroom 3 months later, the county courthouse was packed. News cameras, reporters, neighbors, former HOA members. Everyone wanted to witness the reckoning. I sat in the front row with Tom and Officer Grant. Karen was brought in too. She looked healthier, calmer, and she actually nodded at me in gratitude. She'd been cooperating, giving investigators every detail she knew. She even testified against Richard. Greg testified too, tearfully admitting everything Richard forced him to do. And then Richard was brought in. Cold, silent, handcuffed, eyes full of venom. He stared right at me across the courtroom. I didn't look away. The prosecutor opened with a single line. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is not an HOA case. This is organized financial crime." The jury listened as evidence was shown, contracts were displayed, Karen testified, Greg confessed, Grant explained the intimidation, I explained the threats, the financial expert broke down the stolen $174,000. Richard's defense was weak, laughable, even. And 2 weeks later, the verdict came back, guilty on all counts. Fraud, money laundering, extortion, conspiracy, multiple felonies. He was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. Karen received a reduced sentence and probation for cooperating. Greg, too. Justice was brutal and loud, and the HOA, it was dissolved entirely, rebuilt from scratch, with a new board elected by the community. With transparency rules so strict, corruption didn't stand a chance. People cheered, people hugged, people thanked me. But I wasn't a hero. I was just a homeowner who refused to be bullied. Final emotional rap-you-pee when I walked out of that courthouse after the verdict. The air felt lighter. The neighborhood felt safer. And the weight that had been crushing us for years finally lifted. I'll never forget Karen's breakdown, Greg's fear, or Richard's rage. But what I remember most is this. A community beaten down by corruption found its voice again, and it wasn't because of one person. It was because everyone stood up together and said, "Enough." And if you're watching this, let me ask you, would you have fought back against the HOA, or would you have stayed quiet? Comment your answer below. I read every one of them, and if you want more dramatic, real HOA battles, don't forget to subscribe. Your support is what keeps stories like this alive.